of the Committee on Defense and Internal Affairs, although it was earlier on uploaded. I beg to lay. Right Honorable Speaker, I now present the report. The Narcotic Drugs and Psychotropic Substances Control Bill 2023 was read for the first time on 23rd May 2023 and referred to the Committee on Defense and Internal Affairs for scrutiny under Rule 128.1 of the Rules of Procedure of this Parliament. In consultation with various stakeholders, and now reports under Rule 129.2. The bill to bolster efforts against the supply and use of illicit drugs and substances, the government introduced the Narcotic Drugs and Psychotropic Substances Bill 2023. This followed nullification of the Narcotic Drugs and Psychotropic Substances Control Act of 2015 by the Constitutional Court in the petition of Wakiso Miraa Growers and Dealers Association versus Attorney General, Constitutional Petition number 1 of 2017, for lack of quorum by Parliament while passing the bill into law. The nullified Narcotic Drugs and Psychotropic Substances Control Act 2015 consolidated all laws relating to the control, possession, and trafficking of narcotic drugs and psychotropic substances and the cultivation of certain plants. Consequently, the government retabled the Narcotic Drugs and Psychotropic Substances Control Bill 2023 for the first reading on 23rd May 2023 to provide remedies intended to suppress the problems related to drug trafficking and abuse, to promote international cooperation, and provide the law enforcement agencies with resources to use to curb the problem. Policy and principles of the bill. The policy behind the bill, Right Honourable Speaker, is to adopt measures to criminalize drug-related offences under the domestic law in conformity with Article 3 of the United Nations Convention against illicit traffic in narcotic drugs and psychotropic substances and other related international conventions. The bill, Right Honourable Speaker, is also intended to make provision for a mechanism to generate resources for law enforcement agencies through confiscating money and properties obtained from illicit trading in drugs, provide deterrence against local drug abuse, and put in place a mechanism for rehabilitating drug addicts. Objects of the bill. The bill seeks to A, provide deterrent measures against local drug abuse, B, establish mechanisms for the rehabilitation of drug addicts, C, put in place measures to save Uganda from being a transit route and consumer of illicit drugs, D, facilitate cooperation with the international community in the fight against drug trafficking, E, establish mechanisms for generating resources for the law enforcement agencies. The relevance of the bill. Following the nullification of the Act, there is currently an absence of legislation to deal with increasing cases of drug trafficking and abuse. National Drug Policy and Authority Act CAP 206 in relation to drug abuse is very weak and does not adequately address cases of illicit drugs, especially in the face of Uganda risking being a transit route for drug consumers. Methodology. Right Honourable Speaker, dear colleagues, the committee met with and received ministries and bodies. 1, Ministry of Internal Affairs. 2, Ministry of Health. 3, Directorate of Government Analytical Laboratories. 4, Butabika National Referral Hospital. 5, Criminal Investigations Department of Uganda Police. 6, National Drug Authority. 7, Center for Legal Aid. 8, Wakiso Miraa Growers and Dealers Association Limited. 9. Uganda Medical Cannabis and Hemp Industry Association. 10. Hemp Uganda Limited. 11. Human Rights Awareness and Promotion Forum. 12. Uganda Youth Development Network. 13. Legal Brains Trust. 14. Pearls of Africa CBD Limited. 14. Members of the Rastafari Community, Uganda. 6. The committee also interacted and heard from the Honorable James Baba, Ambassador, Member of Parliament Koboko, who previously was a sponsor of the bill that was nullified. The committee also made abundantly available time and listened to presentation from the Honorable Mwanga Chivumbi, Member of Parliament for Butambara County. Document review. The committee referred to the following documents. The Constitution of the Republic of Uganda.
I have a procedure.
Thank you very much, Right Honorable Speaker. Mr. Speaker, we are processing a law that ran into trouble. Since we have the Attorney General, I seek for your indulgence to help us whether by having another serving military officer, General David Mohoz, involved in matters that should be brought here by civilian. I don't know, there's something wrong with generals with that name. Whether we will not run into the same problem. Because you remember this parliament set a precedent. When General J.J. Odong was appointed, parliament refused to approve him until he resigned. I now see another general. People will go to court challenging. The Attorney General can tell us whether General Mohoz can engage himself in partisan issues.
Thank you, Honorable. Honorable Semuju, we are processing a government bill sponsored by the Minister for Internal Affairs, Major General Kaindo Tafiri, who is a retired army officer. So, when we are addressing these matters, we go to who sponsored the bill. But even then, General Muhoozi is here as an elected member of parliament. He has the same rights as you, because the Constitution provides for election of members of parliament to represent the UPDF. Unless we amend the Constitution, whatever he says here is substantively provided for under the law. Thank you. Yeah. We can advise him to change his name. Then you can be comfortable maybe when he's here.
Thank you. Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker, for your wise ruling. Document review. The committee referred to the following documents. The Constitution of the Republic of Uganda, 1995 as amended. The National Drug Policy and Authority Act, Petitioners Act, Cap 27. The Pharmacy and Drugs Act, Cap 280. Veterinary Surgeons.
The chairman is reading the report.
Yes, sir.
Yes, Honorable Ruhunda.
Report. Yeah. The report by the chairperson is a very long, voluminous report. It is going to take us a very long time to process. So I would wish that he summarizes, because we have had this report.
Now, no, Honorable colleagues, I think this is a problem of us not reading. By the chairperson is only 15 pages. Just 15. But these are areas proposed for amendment, which we shall handle when we go to committee stage. But the report is only 15 pages and is a returned bill. This is a bill which has been repealed by court, to give it enough time, and we do a very, very thorough job. But since you've interrupted, and teachers of Central College, Kabimbiri, Nakifuma County, Mukono District, they are represented in Parliament by Honorable Nabukera Hanifa Hussein and Honorable Fred Simba. They've come to observe proceedings of the House. Please join me in welcoming them. You can stand up and colleagues wave at you. Thank you. Of the Wakiso Mira Growers and Dealers Association Limited. an umbrella of the Uganda Kati Mirror Growers and Dealers in Uganda. They've come to observe proceedings of the House, and I can see they have some supporters in this House. So, Chair, please continue, and we conclude with the
Most of documents reviewed. So we also looked at Veterinary Surgeons Act, Cap 277, criminal. We also reviewed international instruments, Right Honorable Speaker and dear colleagues. We looked at United Nations Convention Against Substances of 1988. We looked at the Single Convention on Narcotic Drugs of 1961. We also looked at the Convention on Psychotropics 1. Right Honorable Speaker, there are salient observations on the bill. The question of whether the consideration of the bill before the committee was sub judice as provided for under Rule 73 of the Rules of Procedure of Parliament. Right Honorable Speaker and dear colleagues, while considering the bill, the committee established that the Attorney General had filed a notice of appeal, Appendix 1, against a decision of the Constitutional Court in Constitutional Petition number 1 of 2017, Wakiso Mirror Growers and Dealers Association versus the Attorney General of Uganda, dated 5th May 2023, following the nullification of the Impugned Act, after court declared the Narcotic Drugs and Psychotropic Substances Control Act of 2017 null and void for lack of quorum when it was passed. The committee wrote to the Attorney General, Appendix 2, seeking clarification from the status of the appeal. The Land Attorney General responded, and his response is Appendix 3, that, 1, the Attorney General's chambers had not yet lodged a memorandum and record of appeal in the Supreme Court, as the record of proceedings has not yet been availed by the Court of Appeal. And 2, a notice of appeal cannot be a bar to Parliament exercising its legislative function. Following the advice of the learned Attorney General, the committee proceeded to consider the bill. Rationale of the Narcotic Drugs and Psychotropic Substances Control Law. There is, Right Honorable Speaker, there is a growing legalization of drugs, in particular cannabis, around the Western world, and currently slowly manifesting in some parts of Africa and Asia. Increasingly, the circulation of illicit drugs as a result of the legislation developments on the narcotic and psychotropic substances across the borders has shot up due to globalization. Illicit drug use is a global public health problem with adverse health effects, socio-economic consequences. In Uganda, there is increased documented drug abuse among particularly youth from wealthy families and students, as evidenced by the increasing numbers of youth at Butabika Mental Referral Hospital. Uganda is a signatory to the United Nations treaties like the Single Convention on Narcotic Drugs of 1961, the Convention on Phototropic Substances 1971, and the United Nations Convention Against Illicit Traffic in Narcotic Drugs and Psychotropic Substances of 1988. The treaties contain obligations whose compliance with state parties plays a significant role in controlling the illicit inflow of narcotic drugs within the jurisdictions of state parties. The committee finds that these treaties impose an obligation on state parties to comply with efforts to control illicit inflow of narcotic drugs within jurisdiction of state parties. Right Honorable Speaker, despite being a state party to the Single Convention on Narcotic Drugs of 1961, Uganda still grapples with drug trafficking. The three international control conventions are not self-executing, and their provisions must be incorporated into domestic law by legislative acts. Right Honorable Speaker and dear colleagues, the existing National Drug Policy and Authority Act does not explicitly provide for prosecution for drug trafficking in narcotic drugs, but provides for unlawful possession. The Penal Code Act, Cap 120, contains no provisions directly related to drug use in Uganda. The narcotic drugs are in various forms, ranging from plant leaves, fresh or dry, to tablets, white powders, and clear liquids. Because of their pharmacological profile, controlled narcotic drugs and psychotropic substances can compromise health and human safety if used outside the structure of sound medical practice. Right Honorable Speaker and dear colleagues, consequently, the 1961 Convention calls for establishing a drug control system where state parties commit themselves to accurately and responsibly managing these substances. Therefore, the bill before us will address the misuse of narcotic drugs and psychotropic substances. It essentially adopts the approach of controlling narcotic drugs and psychotropic substances concerning the possession, trafficking of narcotic drugs and psychotropic substances, and cultivating certain plants. The state seeks powers to restrain persons suspected of having committed offenses under the Act from using any or all of their property, and to trace, confiscate, and consume proprietary rights over persons convicted of specified offenses. The committee, Right Honorable Speaker, observes that if enacted, the bill will significantly help Uganda's fight against the abuse and trafficking of illicit drugs, both internally and across borders. Additionally, it will create a regulated mechanism of usage and trade in controlled drugs and substances, and hence facilitate Uganda's commitment to meet her international obligations regarding control of drug trafficking. The mandate of different ministries under the bill for health in the control of narcotic drugs and psychotropic substances is to regulate the permissible use, manufacture, and storage of narcotic drugs as provided for by the Single Convention on Narcotic Drugs and Psychotropic Substances, 1961. Convention recognizes that the medical use of narcotic drugs continues to be indispensable for relieving pain and suffering, that adequate provision must be made to ensure the availability of narcotic drugs for such purposes. Therefore, the bill in clauses 9, 10, 11, and 14 deals with the restricted use of narcotic drugs prescribed by medical practitioners, pharmacists, dentists, veterinary surgeons, and rehabilitation centers under Part 5, regulated by the institutions under the ministry responsible for health. The Ministry of Internal Affairs is responsible for enforcing the law, conducting investigations in case of breach. The committee posits that all licenses and permits to be issued under this Act should centrally be issued by the ministry responsible for health, since the permission to use narcotic drugs and psychotropic substances is restricted to only medical purposes. The Ministry of Internal Affairs should remain the enforcement arm of the government to ensure compliance. Right Honorable Speaker, the highly contested narcotic drugs and psychotropic substances in the bill. The world over, there is an increasing demand to strike a balance between management and control of narcotics under the international conventions vis-a-vis the overarching desire to ensure the availability of controlled substances for medical and scientific purposes, whilst preserving mentally stable societies. The committee, from its interface with stakeholders, gathered sufficient scientific literature and evidence from both government and private experts on pharmacology of Catha edulis, brackets or known as CAT, also known as Mira, or Mairungi, and cannabis or marijuana, which are highly contested. One of the grounds for the petitioners to put One of the grounds of petition has put to court for nullification of the law on narcotics and psychotropic substances in the Wakiso Miraa Growers and Dealers Association Limited versus Attorney General of Uganda Constitution Petition number 1 of 2017 was that the prohibition and criminalization of the cultivation, possession, consumption, sale, purchase, warehousing, distribution, transportation, exportation, importation, and other dealings in kata iduris or cat are incorporation of cat within the definition of the term psychotropic substances breached several provisions of the Constitution. Further, the fourth schedule of the bill under consideration now proposes cannabis as a prohibited plant. As such, the committee deems it necessary to appreciate the pharmacology, cannabis, and the effects of cat and cannabis to inform the House on the plausible way forward. Right Honorable Speaker, cannabis or cannabis sativa, commonly known as marijuana, hemp, or ganja, etc. What does the committee talk about this? The Director, Government Analytical Laboratories, informed the committee that cannabis was a flowering plant that produced 120 unique cannabinoids. It includes species of cannabis sativa, cannabis indica, and cannabis rudelasis. These plants' morphology contain chemical compounds that interact with endocannabinoid system in the human body if taken. This system is critical in various psychological, physiological processes, including mood, memory, pain, sensation, and appetite. Most well-known cannabinoids are delta-9 tetrahydrocannabinol or THC and cannabinol CBD. The THC is responsible for the high often associated with its consumption. It works by binding the CBD, the CB1 receptors to the brain, which mainly found in central nervous system. CBD is a non-psychoactive cannabinoid that has gained significant attention for its potential therapeutic effect. Notably, the Director, Government Analytical Laboratory, informed the committee that cannabis offers a rich reservoir of bioactive molecules that can be used in pharmaceutical, nutraceutical, and cosmetic products. Cannabis materials include dried ground buds, flowers, stems, stalks, leaves, seeds that can be classified under 4 categories based on the total THC content. These include low THC cannabis, that is derived from cannabis strains or cultivars bred to have low THC below the level threshold defined by each jurisdiction. This is most sought after for its higher CBD content and potential therapeutic benefits with minimal psychoactive effects. 2, high THC cannabis, which is derived from cannabis strains bred or selected for their elevated levels of THC, typically above the legal threshold defined by each jurisdiction. This category is mainly sought after by users seeking stronger psychoactive effects and euphoria for recreational purposes. 3, marijuana, that is mainly derived from cannabis varieties with higher THC levels and primarily grown for recreational or medicinal use. It is rich in THC and has varying levels of cannabinoids, including CBD. 4, hemp, mainly derived from cannabis strains with deficient THC levels 0.3% or less dry weight percent total THC in the US and 0.2% THC in many EU countries. Hemp is cultivated for various industrial purposes, including fiber, seeds, and CBD extraction. It has minimal psychoactive effects due to its low THC content. Right. Currently, the licensing of cultivation of plants yielding narcotics in Uganda is the minister responsible for health in consultation with the National Drug Authority under Section 49 of the National Drug Policy Authority Act, CAP 206. To this extent, the committee was informed that Industrial Hemp Uganda Limited, a limited by guarantee company, was one such licensed company currently growing and processing medical cannabis. I have provided tables and the report that contain medical pros and cons of cannabis. I beg that I continue because this literature is provided, even if I don't read them. The source of this is the Directorate of Government Analytical Laboratories, so it's an authoritative literature to guide us. The committee noted that due to its therapeutic characteristics, the importance of cannabis in the pharmaceutical healthcare industry is increasingly gaining traction. Many states in the US and countries in the West have approved medical cannabis or medical marijuana, and the sector is one of the fast-growing markets as more and more countries legalize it. However, the committee observes that whilst some jurisdictions have relaxed restrictions on cannabis, its abuse over psychotropic effects is more profound, and this continues to pose severe risks to public health. Directorate of Government Analytical Laboratories revealed that from its statistics of forensic casework from January 2021 and June 2023, this is recent statistics, it retrieved 178 cases of narcotic drugs in 2021, 295 cases in 2022, and 83 cases from January to June of 2023. From these, Right Honorable Speaker and dear colleagues, cannabis was the most abused drug, making 68.2% in 2021, making 80.1% in 2022, and 76.4% in 2023. It was found that cannabis was largely affordable and associated with criminal cases related to theft, burglaries, violence, and accidents. Right Honorable Speaker, the committee interrogated the efficacy of literature and medicinal effects about Catha eduris, or cat, also locally known as Mira, Mairunji, etc. The Director Government Analytical Laboratory informed the committee that cat, natively grown in East Africa and the Arabian Peninsula, was a flowering evergreen shrub abused for its stimulant-like effect. The leaves are traditionally chewed fresh and sometimes dried for tea or chewable state. In Uganda, cat has increasingly gained traction as a cash crop due to its associated advantages requiring less labor, small scale of land for cultivation, and ready market for its fresh leaves. Cat's most notable phytochemical compounds include CNS stimulant properties. This is cathinone and cathine, a mild psychoactive alkaloid. The Director of Government Analytical Laboratory further noted that cat contains several stimulant compounds, including cathinone, cathine, and morphedrine, which are alkaloids primarily concentrated in the plant's fresh leaves. These are classified as phenethylamines with stimulating effects when chewed. Cathinone is structurally similar to amphetamines acts as central nervous system stimulant. Its effects include increased energy, euphoria, and alertness. It is considered the main active compound in fresh cat leaves. Cathine, also known as...
Honorable colleagues, I need you in the House, honorable ministers. I need you in the House. We need quorum. This is a government bill. I need government officials in the House. We are doing government work. Please.
Right Honorable Speaker.
This bill was nullified because of quorum. If I cannot get quorum from government on a government bill, then it will be difficult for me to proceed with work.
Right Honorable Speaker, structurally related to cathinone and has similar stimulant properties. Although milder, cathinine in Schedule 3 controlled substance in the US due to its stimulant effect. Table 2, Right Honorable Speaker and dear colleagues, has pros and cons of CAT. I beg that members read it. I can go, and this literature and statistics is got from Directorate of Government Analytical Laboratories. Right Honorable Speaker and dear colleagues, the World Health Organization considers CAT a less potent or addictive stimulant than other commonly used substances such as alcohol, cocaine, amphetamine, and tobacco. The WHO expert committee, upon review of the compounds in CAT, determined that the potential for abuse is low and the level of threat to public health is insignificant to warrant international control. The committee is mindful that highly contentious plants have a robust historical connotation, particularly in Africa, where they have been used as medicinal plants or local herbs. Additionally, Right Honorable Speaker and dear colleagues, from a global perspective, there is a growing debate on how holistic approach to controlling psychotropic substances for medical purposes can be achieved without endangering the young generation. However, the use of drugs for recreation has increased in the last century, owing to developments in science and technology. The committee was informed by the team of expatriates from Butabika International Mental Referral Hospital that more recently, the research and studies conducted at the hospital have shown that cannabis has increasingly become a gateway drug for use of other hazardous substances. Additionally, no controlled studies or clinical trials declare CAT medicinal. Some studies also argue that heavy CAT use has been documented to be a recipe for family breakdown and intoxication among young persons. But still, there exists no concrete scientific evidence linking crime and CAT use. Also, no quantitative data is available about the prevalence of public health problems, severe or otherwise, associated with the use of CAT. Furthermore, 3 United Nations conventions that form the international legal framework of global drug and psychotropic substances control, that is, the Single Convention on Narcotic Drugs, as amended by the 1972 Protocol, the Convention of Psychotropic Substances in 1972, the Convention Against Illicit Traffic of Narcotic Drugs and Psychotropic Substances, 1988, all of which Uganda is a signatory to, do not classify CAT as an illicit or prohibited substance. However, Right Honorable Speaker and dear colleagues, consumption of CAT in Uganda has not been a common phenomenon. It is a recent development attributed to the high influx of refugees from the neighboring countries where CAT is traditionally consumed. This has increased the demand and market for CAT in Uganda. From the Directorate of Government Analytical Laboratories, statistics of forensic casework of January 2021 to June 2023, highlighted above, Right Honorable Speaker, it was further revealed that CAT made up to 1.3%, 0.6%, and 2.2% of the total drug cases received in 2021, 2022, 2023, respectively. Drawing from the above, the uncontrolled consumption and distribution of cannabis, CAT, and other synthetic drugs continues to pose a significant public health risk to the young population. As such, the committee deems it necessary to ensure public health by prohibiting cannabis sativa and Catha iduris. A highly controlled legal regime, the international obligations notwithstanding. The two plants, that is cannabis and khat, should only be allowed for cultivation and usage strictly for medical purposes and research. Right Honorable Speaker, protection of our children. Clause 10 of the bill prohibits the supply of narcotic drugs and psychotropic substances to any child by any person, including a medical practitioner, pharmacist, or dentist, without reasonable grounds to believe that the child requires such substances for medical purposes. Under Article 33 of the UN Convention on Rights of a Child, the obligation to protect children, young people from harmful drugs cannot be overemphasized. The drug supply chain and narcotic drug substances puts children at risk of harm. Children are harmed through drug use, parental drug dependence, drug-related violence, exploitation in trafficking, and range of other ways. Considering the detrimental effects of narcotic drugs and psychotropic substances, and in the attempt to domesticate the spirit of Article 33 of the UN Convention on Rights of the Child, the committee finds it necessary to propose more stringent measures to mitigate the supply. To this extent, the committee proposes to increase the fine and the jail term for the person who exposes the children to drug abuse. Conclusion. Right Honorable Speaker and dear colleagues, the bill seeks to adopt measures to criminalize drug-related offenses under domestic law in conformity with Article 3 of the United Nations Convention against illicit traffic in narcotic drugs and psychotropic substances and other related international conventions. The committee reviewed the bill and made proposals that it deemed fit to achieve the set objectives. The committee was alive to the need for comprehensive and responsive law that addresses supply, demand, and harm reduction in the use of narcotic drugs and psychotropic substances while prioritizing public health. Right Honorable Speaker and dear colleagues, the committee recommends that the bill be considered for the second reading, subject to the proposed amendments attached hereto and any other modifications the House may propose to approve. Before I report, Right Honorable Speaker, I also must mention that this report has a minority version. Under your guidance, you probably give them a chance to vote for it. Right Honorable Speaker and dear colleagues, I beg to report.
Thank you. I think consultation very well. The presiding officer, then the Right Honorable Speaker, guided that the Committee on Health should also look at the bill and incorporate its recommendations to those of the Committee on Internal Affairs. Unfortunately, under our rules, the recommendations of the Committee on Health cannot be reported upon here because we can only have one report, only one committee, or if at the beginning jointly they had been guided to process the bill together. So yesterday we held a meeting where the Minister for Health, the Minister for Internal Affairs, the Attorney General, the Chairperson of the Committee on Health, and brought the recommendations and observations of the Committee on Health those which had been considered by the Committee on Internal Affairs and additional issues which they felt the Committee on Internal Affairs had not addressed properly. So I guided the chair of the committee that since we don't have any room under rules of procedure where he could make another report, he will, on behalf of the committee, as any other member, present the proposed amendments once we reach on committee stage. So that one should be noted. And I guided him that those proposed amendments should be uploaded because he has read through the report. And I'm sure that was done. So when we reach at committee stage, that's when we will handle the issue. Number two, also the meeting was attended by the Shadow Minister for Internal Affairs, who had also moved a minority report. One issue, he had raised two major issues. I know you read the report. One was on the sub judice rule, where we explained to him because the Attorney General had not wanted to appear. But in the ruling, the judge had pronounced himself on issues related to how we process business here, which we felt we are going to curtail the process of doing business in the House. So we requested the Attorney General to appear specifically on those issues, but not to do with the bill. Otherwise, he couldn't appear on the bill and then again bring it here for processing. So we agreed with the Shadow Minister. I don't know if, but he had another issue where he said he was not yet satisfied. So he's consulting the Attorney General, Opposition Chief Whip. I don't know if you could check on them and see, because I want to give him an opportunity. Number three, I read through the report of the Committee on Honorable Colleagues and following the practice we've had in this House, whereby if proposed amendments are more than 50% of the clauses in the bill, we usually require the minister to withdraw the bill and go and bring a fresh bill. But that's not a given. That is, if the proposed amendments do fundamentally affect the principle and object of the bill. I read through all the proposed amendments from all sides. I found they were all still complying with the object and principle of the bill. They were mainly around issues of reconciliation. Some were consequential amendments, corrections, and all those few things. So the object and principle of the bill has not been affected by the proposed amendment. And because of that, I allowed the bill to continue being processed by the House. So I now request Honorable Abdallah Chwanuka. Yes, procedure.
Motion, Mr. Speaker.
Yeah.
In the past, this Parliament has suspended the rules to allow the passage of a bill that was removing the age limit to allow President Museveni to rule for life. The motion I have is to suspend the rules to allow the Committee on Health, because this is a very serious matter, make a presentation so we can debate with full knowledge, especially implication about health. So my motion, Mr. Speaker, is to have the rule you have quoted suspended to allow the Committee on Health a report. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Musira John, Honorable Aaron Mayanja, Honorable Timogiwi, Honorable Basri, and many members. Okay? This is a direct motion for which we don't need to, okay? But the problem is, no. I know he has a report. The biggest problem we have is that there is no rule to suspend, okay? Because there is no rule prohibiting them, and there is no rule allowing them. by maybe, okay, if we could look at the general thought of the speaker and I share it with you, and we are out. So with that, the chair committee on health is here? Yeah. So Honorable, you may, if I give you, because it's just general observations you made. Most of the issues from the report you made, I can see they are the proposed amendments. So if you could see the missing gaps, so that members can pick on them. Please. Honorable Jonathan Odu, let's do this together, Honorable colleagues, so that we don't have...
Mr. Speaker, I thank you so much. Mr. Speaker, I want to speak in opposition to that motion for... Thank you. For the following reasons, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Speaker, to challenge the ruling of the Speaker under the rules is not casually done, that you stand and say, now I want to challenge the ruling. When I moved the motion, you asked the colleagues to stand up and you said, the chairperson will come and present. That becomes the ruling of the Speaker. And the Honorable Jonathan Odu, who is a lawyer, knows that rules, you don't wish them away, that you stand up and say, now I am opposed to a decision already taken, Mr. Speaker. Is the Honorable Jonathan Odu in order to attempt illegally to reverse the decision of the Speaker on this matter?
You see, colleagues, Rule 87 provides for challenging the decision of the Speaker. But here it's not a matter of who is in order, who is not in order. I think what I'm getting from both colleagues here is, one, Honorable Jonathan would want us to follow the rules to the letter and how they are. But then Honorable Semuji is also saying that the Committee on Health might have discovered very critical information which would help members when they are debating and making a decision. So both of you are right, okay?
Mr. Speaker, I thank you so much, and I thank my brother, Honorable Semuju, for acknowledging that I'm a lawyer. Lawyers have a tendency of looking at things that are beyond ordinary eyes. Mr. Speaker, the motion had not been carried for the record of the House. The motion had not been voted upon. It has not yet been carried. So I cannot be faulted for making arguments against it. Secondly, Mr. Speaker, I wanted to persuade you that we allow the Shadow Minister to present the alternative report, and then we invite the Chair Committee of Health as a matter of debate and be given enough time to present as a member. His presentation can then persuade this Parliament to adopt the recommendation, so that we stick by the rules of the game. Otherwise, you do not have the provision in our rules to anchor, to even entertain the report. How will you deal with that report in case there are disagreements? So it would fit when he debates and presents it as the first priority, and then Parliament can then take a decision on it. I thank.
Now, you see, the end result is the Committee on Health presents, okay? But not in form of a report. I had just used my general authority. Yeah, because I'm trying to avoid situations whereby really one committee which was assigned the duty, and you know, bills are the chairman of Health Committee. I said, I will give you an opportunity at a later stage where you can come and you bring all your issues. That's why he's even on the front bench about what the rules tell us to do and not to do. So I think it's a good meeting point. It's a good meeting point. So let's of Honorable Jonathan Odur, because in the end, we shall have addressed concerns of the House. And initially, that's how I had looked at it. It would be more. Honorable Seungu, let's...
Honorable Odur said that the lawyers, my friend, said that he wanted to suspend the rule. And on the record, it reads that he wanted to suspend the rule, yet was moving a motion. For proper records of Parliament, I would pray through Mr. Speaker that he was suspending it. There was nothing like that rule at the time he moved it. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Let the Hansard capture that.
Thank you, Right Honourable Speaker. Right Honourable Speaker, with your wise guidance, I retreated with the Attorney General, together with the Solicitor General and the Honourable Mwanga Chivombi, regarding the two limbs of of the minority report, and we have resolved to harmonize the issue at the committee stage, and that is regarding section 1 of the bill, where we are going to clog it there regarding the commencement. So we have agreed to abandon the minority. We shall resolve it at the committee stage.
Thank you. Thank you, Honorable Abdallah.
Mr. Speaker, I am not a lawyer to see what the ordinary eyes don't see. But I am one MP who has been here for a while. This is the first time that reports are being negotiated. Because the moment a report is presented and is announced as a report of a committee, a minority report is part of a report of the committee. Let the lawyers who see beyond the eyes tell us whether in our rules there is a provision to negotiate reports and then you come and withdraw. Because the rules require that after the presentation of the minority report, the main report will be presented. If negotiations are ordered by the Speaker, they can be on matters that all of us know. That's the procedural issue, Mr. Speaker, I am raising.
Honorable, a minority report is at the discretion of the signatories to the report. They can present it, they can decide not to present it. And we've had it here before, where, by the way, we've received the notice and you wait for the one presented and is not here. In fact, the Honorable Abdallah Kwanuka has done something gracious by appearing. Others don't even appear. So a member has, because this is not a report of the committee, it is a report of the people. Listen to me. It's an addendum. It is part of the committee report that has been presented. And the two members who have signed, okay, if they've agreed to withdraw and they've seen their issues have been addressed, there is nothing wrong with that. Moreover, when we reach at that stage, if you are a member of the House and you had been convinced by the issues in the minority report, once we go to committee stage, you will have the latitude to raise your issues. Please, let's move. You can raise this during the debate. Colleagues, let's move. I want us to move. We are now going to open up for debate. The debate is limited to the object and principle of the bill, not general clauses of the bill. I open the debate starting with the Chairman, Committee on Health, as we have agreed to make general observations which can guide us. Whips ensure members are in. In the meantime, I want clerk to be ascertaining quorum. I want clerk to ascertain quorum both online and in the House. Thank you. Chairman, Committee on Health.
Speaker, like you had guided, the Committee on Health came up with amendments, as you had told us that we're not going to have presentation of a report. But if I can get the highlights that of our report that speak to the amendments, the issue of narcotics and psychotropic agents is more of a public health issue. Because everything ends up in the hospital, it's a public health issue. And these public health threats are emergencies, and some are chronic and terminally. They affect all the systems of the body, honorable members, including the central nervous system, episodes of depression, sexual dysfunction, and so forth, the cardiovascular system, gastrointestinal system, endocrine, and also in the administration of these narcotics and psychotropic agents. Right, Honorable Speaker and colleagues, people do share the needles. So we are able to transmit diseases like hepatitis, HIV, among others. And of course, the end point on the body that these narcotics and psychotropic agents affect leads to death. However, Right Honorable Speaker, one of the glaring issues we found which may present a big legal challenge is the issue of precursors. Precursors are the building blocks that we use to make synthetic narcotics
Most of the narcotics we think that we deal with, like hemp, cannabis, marijuana, those are grown. But some people exploit the lacuna in the legal system to import the building blocks, bring them in country, and assemble them. And that's where, as a committee, we thought we needed to also scrutinize. Because when you look at the World Mental Health Report, one of the biggest problems is synthetic narcotics. So as a committee, we propose...
Sorry, Chair. Colleagues, we have free seating. We have free seating so that we can all fit in.
Thank you, Right Honourable. So as a committee, honourable members, we proposed to add another schedule that lists all the precursors, the building blocks, so that these are able to be regulated. And that helps interpretation of the law, so that when somebody is importing in these precursors, we should be able to know why is he importing them, and also for what purpose, and there should be an element of traceability and their regulation. Secondly, Right Honourable Speaker and colleagues, the issue of rehabilitation. We also said the rehabilitation is ideally, treatment precedes rehabilitation. And therefore, the section that caters for rehabilitation, we added the word treatment and rehabilitation because the health sector is better placed to treat the people suffering from the effects of narcotics and psychotropic agents, and then, of course, the rehabilitation. There were issues to do with entities that have been introduced in the bill, like there's the National Committee on Narcotics and Psychotropic Agents, and the committee says that we have a health advisory board that is anchored in the Mental Health Act, and there'll be duplication. Right now we are transitioning to rationalization. We should not have two entities housed in different acts that are repeating the same function. So the committee says that the Health Advisory Board should take over the regulation and consequently advise the minister. Right Honourable Speaker, there was the issue of possession of some of the narcotics and psychotropic agents. The committee proposed that we needed to open up and give the minister, within her mandate in the regulations, an opportunity to keep on revising those people, because the health sector is dynamic, it's moving forward, people are super specializing. So in 2 years' time, you'll get a new crop of health cadres that should be able to administer these psychotropic agents, and would not want to come back to the House for an amendment. So we had to propose that. And then secondly, Right Honourable Speaker, on the issue of morphine, the Palliative Association of Uganda was concerned that morphine is administered by nurses for people who have cancer and terminally ill diseases. However, we have...
Honourable Muma, kindly take your seat. Go on, Chair. Go on, Chair.
So going by what the bill had proposed, we would tie out the nurses who go for home visits and administer morphine. So with consultation of the Minister of Health, we opened it up to include clinical officers and senior nursing officers who are trained in palliative care, with another provision that the Minister may make guidelines and provisions based on the emerging cadres in the health center. So, Right Honourable Speaker, in summary, as you had guided, you had given me 5 minutes. Those were some of the sticky issues. The rest, we shall handle them when we go to the committee stage.
Honourable Komakech, Honourable Chivoga, Speak Honourable Rusakero, then Honourable Tebandeke, then I will go here. 2 minutes each.
We just had a lawyer speaking that he looks at issues as a lawyer, and I would like to say each one of us looks at issues with the proficiency he has. Whereas some people look at this bill from a health perspective, others look at it from an economic perspective. It's wrong for someone to come and say, do not talk about economics. We must, because economics lead to other things. Right, Honorable Speaker, all the things that have been, and I will specifically talk for cards, that's what I understand, because I have many people in my constituency that grow cards. All the things that have been blamed of cult, I want to say that alcohol causes them. And Uganda is #1 alcohol consumer in Africa. Actually, it's the only thing we lead in the world in Africa, is the alcohol. Yesterday, the minister said we lead at coffee. No, we don't. We are #2. I have not seen this country say we stop alcohol consumption because it has these effects. Instead, we are looking forward to more being sold so that we can raise taxes. Right, Honorable Speaker, in my culture, if you want to pick a knife from a child, you provide that child with a stick to hold. You just don't take away a knife because that child will look for something more dangerous. People in my constituency survive on card. If government is to take away card from people that survive on it, we must provide an alternative. I have not seen, I have 2 minutes, they will not allow me to come back. Yesterday we had the Minister for Agriculture saying, no more seedlings. Finance saying, no money. When you are saying no to every avenue and you have not provided an alternative, how would you expect those?
Thank you. Honorable Komakech.
Right, Honorable Speaker, today we debate a bill that entails the life of Ugandans. Right, Honorable Speaker, we are debating about a bill that causes a disease that is incurable. Honorable members, anyone who uses marijuana cannot get treatment and get cured. I would rate an addict as a patient who has HIV, who has TB. We can treat these addicts, but we can never cure them in any way. When you look at the economic bit of it, Right Honorable Speaker, the economic bit will not warrant lives of our youths in this country. Every day in Butabika, from experience, I would work on 8-hour shift. In the 8-hour shift, I would admit 20 young youths. These are Ugandans. 20 from use of marijuana, use of Mairunji. Right, Honorable Speaker, there is, I want to interest members on the report from poor families. Right, Honorable Speaker, I would want to interest members in this parliament that Butabika National Mental Institution Hospital in Uganda is not allowed to admit anyone below the age of 18 who is addicted to alcohol or marijuana. Where do these children go? Do they go to Kampiringsa? In Kampiringsa, there are no health workers who can manage these children in Kampiringsa. So members, I beg of you, addiction is a growing disease. You do not start with cannabis. You start with a lower drug. They will start with Cuba. They will start with Shisha. Then they go on upgrading from level to level until when they hit rock bottom. As I speak, members, we have doctors who are admitted in mental institutions, and their certificates, their degrees are hanging.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Right Honorable Speaker. Members, I want to interest you.
And even those ones who take, if you confirm that you take, if you confirm that you take, I'll give you enough time to explain first how it feels when you're taking, okay? But you must confess here that you take, okay? So,
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. When one is to use drug, he uses because of a reason. And that reason is always cured by a drug. It's true. When one takes in marijuana, when one takes in Mairunji, they get an effect of healing that comes to them. But look at the out end of it. I'll equate it to someone who dances and drums at the same time. We are talking of the brain. It's the same brain controlling these young people. Right, Honorable Speaker, in this parliament, right in here, I wouldn't mention names, but I know parents who have treated who have treated their children and they are grumbling with this disease. Right, Honorable Speaker. Now, the beauty is rich parents can take their children to rehabilitation centers, but poor parents, their children end up on the streets. The children you see along the road haggling phones, those are children of poor parents. So if this parliament can really take into heart parents who can't afford going to rehab.
Thank you, Honorable.
Right, honorable members, I beg that let us maintain the status quo and pass this bill for the betterment of our country. Thank you so much.
Honorable colleagues, there is a very important point a member has raised, that you start slowly. It's like in life how you progress. When you get money for a border, you now go for money for a car. You start from a Primo. Then when money comes, you go to Mark II. From Mark II, you go to Subaru. From Subaru, you go to Benz. From Benz, you go to Lamborghini. And then you go to a plane. He has given, that's a very, very comparing point which we should look at. Yes, I had picked you, Honorable colleague. Yes. I had picked Honorable Christine. Honorable Chibumba, I had not picked you.
Honorable Speaker and the committee for the report. Right, Honorable Speaker, they have raised different sectors as they are affected by the issue, but the spiritual perspective, we also needed to hear from it. Because when you look at the contradictions, many of us refuse to take alcohol because of the after effects. The biggest challenge we have here is to allow production, and then from production, we would expect that it is exported, probably it is consumed by other countries, but our ability to control consumption from production, I think, is the challenge we have as Uganda. Currently, I see no funds to monitor adherence to mechanisms that we are providing for. Who exactly is going to monitor that from production, our people don't access? That is where the challenge is. And then you find that some people earn from this. We cannot just look at earning alone, but the corruption of the brains and the ability to think by the population that we have right now is also very important. So I would implore members to look at the rehabilitation process, processes and centers, but there are also very many adults, especially women, who do not consult from their wombs, but continue consuming.
Thank you. Honorable Rusakelo.
We look at, I hear people talking about economic gain. Have we even done a study to see how much we end up spending on treatment compared to how much we will gain as a country? We have just talked about rehabilitation centers. How many rehabilitation centers are in Uganda that are treating people for free? Just give me one. None. They are not there and they are not functioning. So what economic gain are we even talking about? At whose expense? And then the other issue is, we are talking about, is it controlled planting? Are we going to put CCTV cameras in these gardens to make sure that we control who goes in and out of these gardens? And then I heard the chairperson talking about that there is no connection between the drugs and crime. Friends, let me tell you, most of you here are parents. When your children come back from school, ask them whether they have come back with all their property. I know of children, when they go to school, they don't have mattresses, the bed sheets are done, is gone, the blanket is gone. Let me tell you, that is a sign that your child is now involved in drug addiction. Because they start small, the cheap one, then they go higher and higher and higher because they want to get the money to buy the expensive ones. They begin to sell things. They even steal your money and you know it. They steal your money because they...
Thank you.
Right Honorable Speaker, in any business, there begins with production and then consumption. I'm not convinced that we shall support the production and limit the consumption. He who plants maize doesn't end up on mere leaves, but even the grains he has to consume. Right Honorable Speaker, in a religious perspective, I'd like to introduce members to Proverbs chapter 20, verse 1. Wine is a mocker, strong drink is ragging, and whoever is deceived thereby is not wise. Right Honorable Speaker, should we get tempted to support the production of marijuana, that is total opium to our minds, and it will arouse, freezes, and endorses our understanding? I would strongly support that much as we are in consideration of this bill, we should pass it with strong conditions attached to neither production or consumption, but the status quo has to remain. Because even the existing law, I've not seen any loophole. And even all Ugandans know that anything connected to marijuana is more or less equivalent to treason. Therefore, I think it is this parliament that is introducing the production and the consumption of marijuana to the public, yet the public knows the truth of the matter. I beg to support.
Thank you. Honorable, the law was nullified by court, so we better have a law to achieve what you're raising. Dr. Tahigwa, Linda Irene.
Opportunity. I want to comment on the issue of alcohol being psychotropic. Yes, it is, but its effects, the psychotropic effects of alcohol, wear off very fast. Therefore, you cannot compare it with cat. Secondly, Right Honorable Speaker, yes, that we must understand the Right Honorable Speaker, that the two are different. Yeah, they are both psychotropic, but that one of alcohol wears off very fast. Therefore, it does not affect human beings like does cat. Secondly, Right Honorable Speaker, on the issue of production, I think it was clear it should be restricted. It should be restricted, and to me, actually, it shouldn't be, for example, planted within our communities. It should be away from the communities, out of reach of our children. Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker.
Linda, then Peter.
I would like to thank the committee and to stand to support the status quo of the bill, considering the negative effects that drug abuse has on the young population in this country. Right Honorable Speaker and members, if you can see the increasing number of young people that are mentally sick on the streets of cities, because it's as if when people become mentally sick, they have to run to cities. The numbers are increasing every day, and even when they're already sick, they continue consuming these drugs. So I stand to support the bill, that it is high time we have to protect the population of the young people in Uganda. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. When this bill was tabled for debate, I recall my brother Kivumbi gave a very convincing argument. And on that day, my argument was, when you compare the move of the president on the 4-acre model, producing 20 million for an household, and my brother Kivumbi was saying, in Butambala, an acre produces, did you say 30 million or something like that? Or more. Today I've had the same argument from the woman MP, that what alternative do we have for the people in our constituency? I was just wondering, did we hear about the effect of these substances on the population? Number two, you are looking at income for your people. You are not looking at the impact of this activity on the community. I think it's important that if we are going to maintain this proposal by the chair, then we need to register the farmers, gazette where they're going to do cultivation, establish who is going to be buying the product for medical purposes.
Otherwise, if every big Tom and Harry has a small garden hidden somewhere, we will not be able to manage the effects of this. Mr. Speaker, I support the bill.
Thank you. Suspend the House for 2 minutes only. 2 minutes only.
Clause 1.
Chair.
Thank you, Chair. These are proposed amendments to the Narcotic Drugs and Psychotropic Substances Control Bill 2023. Chair, the committee proposes that we delete Clause 1. And justification is that the Act should commence immediately after the assent and publication to meet the urgency required for the regulation of narcotic drugs and psychotropic substances following the nullification of the current Act by court.
Okay. Honorable colleagues, anyone with the... It's Honorable Nandara.
The chair to delete. It's a requirement of the law that you must have a commencement clause, so you cannot delete. We can only amend to read that the act shall come into force on the date of assent.
That's a very important observation, Chair.
Chair, we proceed.
Thank you. I now put the question that the clause 1 be amended as proposed. Those in favor.
Clause 2.
Oh, sorry. I wasn't on record. Yes. I now put the question that clause 1 be amended as proposed. Those in favor say aye, to the contrary nay. The ayes have it.
Clause 1 as amended.
I put the question that clause 1 as amended stands as part of the bill. Those in favor say aye, and to the contrary nay. The ayes have it.
Clause 2.
Now, I would want to guide that clause 2, we do it at the end. Wait a bit. When the speaker is speaking, you don't come and say procedure. You wait till I finish. That's the advantage of being a speaker. Yes. Now, I would propose, like as usual, the practice, clause 2, which is the interpretation clause, we always deal with it at the end, because there are very many salient issues we handle. Honorable Abdara.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Regarding clause 1, which is about commencement, it is one of the issues which we had agreed with the Attorney General, and we agreed that we retain it.
Yeah, but
doesn't require any further legislation by the minister. So I think it should be clear.
Actually,
Honorable colleagues, please, this is a matter that is sorted. If you have an issue, you will recommit. Otherwise, I don't know what we are doing. It's an already sorted matter. Yeah. So, but you note it down. Any clause where you have an issue, you can recommit. Yeah. Clerk. Clause 3.
Chair, clause 3 is on jurisdiction. We propose that clause 3 is substituted for the following 3. 1, this act on jurisdiction, this act applies to the entire territory of Uganda. 2, this act applies to conduct engaged in, inside or outside Uganda, relating to the importation, exportation, manufacture, buying, sale, giving, supplying, storing, administering, conveying, delivering, or distributing of a narcotic drug or psychotropic substance. A, on board a vessel or aircraft registered in Uganda. B, by a Ugandan citizen or any person ordinarily resident in Uganda. C, by a body corporate incorporated in or carrying on business in Uganda. D, any other person relating to the supply or possible supply by that person of any narcotic drug or psychotropic substance. Right Honorable Chair, the justification, 1, is for clarity and better drafting. 2, jurisdiction of Uganda covers the territory, the aircraft registered in Uganda, and the ship flying Ugandan flag. 3, enumerate the actions that will create criminal liability if done in or outside Uganda. I beg.
And you say this is a free zone. There are laws which are not applicable in this country. So, Mr. Chairman, I would interest you that free zone should be part to be added on the territorial in Uganda. The justification to avoid anybody to use a free zone as a conduit to bring in drugs.
Attorney General?
I think D addresses that issue because D addresses any person relating to the supply of narcotics. So the person here relates, and when we go back to the definition, relates to a natural and other person. But obviously, if a plane is in transit with Kenyan flag going through Uganda, Uganda has no business going into that plane because it offends the international rules. But as long as you enter the territory of Uganda, I think D would apply to you. It says any person. So even a company would be a person, a juridical person.
So, Honorable Nandara, I'm seeing D indeed would cover. Are you satisfied?
Speaker, I'm okay.
Okay, thank you. I now put the question that clause will be substituted as proposed. Those in favor say aye, and to the contrary nay. The ayes have it.
Clause 4.
Chair.
Clause 4 relates to penalty for possession of narcotic drugs and psychotropic substances. Clause 4 of the bill, the committee proposes that be amended. A, by substituting for subclause 2 the following. I quote, a person who commits an offense under subsection 1 is liable on conviction, A, in respect of a narcotic drug listed in second schedule, to a fine not exceeding 50,000 currency points or 3 times the market value of the drug, whichever is greater, or imprisonment not exceeding 20 years, or both. And B, in respect of a psychotropic substance listed in the first schedule, a fine not exceeding 25,000 currency points, or 3 times the market value of the psychotropic substance, whichever is greater, or to an imprisonment not exceeding 15 years, or both. In subclause 3, in paragraph A, by substituting for the word section 28, the word section 27. Chair, the justification is to correct a mistake in cross-referencing the relevant provisions of the National Drug Policy and Authority Act. 2, to enhance the penalty for possessing a narcotic drug or psychotropic substance in order to make the provisions more deterrent. 3, in compliance with Section 37 of the Interpretation Act, to prescribe the maximum penalties that may be suffered by a person convicted under the Act. Chair.
Okay. Thank you. Chair, Committee on Health, you had issues on this?
Chair, Clause 4 penalty for possession of narcotic drugs and psychotropic substances. Clause 4 of the bill is amended in subclause 3 by inserting immediately after paragraph B the following. A clinic officer or nurse with a certificate in specialist palliative care in possession of a narcotic drug or psychotropic substance for purpose of prescription or supply authorized under the National Drug Policy and Authority Act. The justification, Mr. Chairman, is to conform the bill to the National Drug Policy and Authority Act, under which the Minister has made regulations authorizing a clinical officer or a nurse with a certificate in specialist palliative care to prescribe or supply certain narcotic and analgesic drugs.
Yeah, thank you. Now, I see Honorable Yume agrees with what the Committee on Defense proposed as amendment, and then he's adding on. Okay? Just carry. He's not contesting. Honorable Alex Sirhunda.
Chair, uncomfortable when they talk about the market value, because it's like we are qualifying these drugs and we know the market value, yet this is done underhand. So within the law, how do we determine the market value of the drug?
Okay. Honorable Minister for Internal Affairs, how do you usually look at in papers that they've grabbed the drugs with the market value of this? How do you determine it? And yet there is no legal market for these products. Yeah. So I need it on record because I need someone to answer.
Right, Honorable Chair, the determination of the market price is normally dependent on what has been the dealing price, not the legally accepted, but the dealing price. So if they find if I arrest someone with drugs and that person gives evidence that I bought it for 10 shillings or 10,000 shillings, that's the value of that product.
Okay. Yes, but colleagues, this is an international standard. Everywhere in the world, when they arrest someone with drugs, they usually put the market value. Okay? And these investigators sometimes also, they have underground people who go and help them to make research. Okay? So I think that shouldn't be a very big problem. I put the question that clause 4 be amended as proposed. Those in favor say aye, and the contrary nay. The ayes have it.
Clause 4 as amended.
I put a question that clause 4 as amended stands part of the bill. Those in favor say aye, and to the contrary nay. The ayes have it.
Thank you, Chair. Clause 5 deals with the penalty for trafficking in narcotic drugs and psychotropic substances. Clause 5 is amended by substituting paragraph A and B for A, I read, in respect of the narcotic drugs or psychotropic substances, a fine not exceeding 50,000 currency points or 3 times the market value of the narcotic drug or psychotropic substance, whichever is greater, or imprisonment for life or both. B, in respect of any substance other than a narcotic drug or psychotropic substance, which he or she represents or holds out to be a narcotic drug or psychotropic substance, a fine not exceeding 25,000 currency points, 2 imprisonment for a period not exceeding 20 years. Chair, the justification for this is for purposes of enhancing and prescribing the maximum punishment in compliance with Section 37 of the Interpretation Act. Chair, submit.
Honourable Minister, do you agree to the proposed amendment?
I concur with the proposed amendment.
Thank you. Honourable Jonathan Odur.
Thank you, Chair. I wanted to add, in addition to that, before the paragraph A, it should read commits an offense and is liable on conviction. So I wanted to add the word on conviction, before paragraph A and B.
Attorney General? Okay.
Many of these traffickers are actually also users. Prisoning them does not take the vice of using. So I was thinking, I was recommending that would it be right that we also, on top of prisoning them, we subject them to treatment for a period of maybe 3 months, because that's the standard period of treatment in the prison, or after their servicing, they go through rehabilitation center for 3 months.
Yeah, but that provide for treatment of prisoners. So when we reach that side, then we shall be able to address the concern. Yes, Honorable Gilbert Oranya.
Mr. Chairman, looking at the currency point in terms of fine, 50,000 currency point, if you multiply it times 20,000, it comes to 1 billion. Right, Mr. Chairman, I really feel that is too much. That is too much, right?
For a drug dealer?
No.
That's pocket change, Honorable, you know.
Mr. Chairman, you know, those one who don't want to participate in such kind of drugs, those are the people who own nothing. They are really not economically empowered. Therefore, if we put such high amount, Mr. Chairman, we are going to increase on everybody.
Thank you.
So I really feel, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. I now put a question that clause 5 be amended as proposed. Those in favor say aye, and to the contrary nay. The ayes have it.
Clause 5 as amended.
I now put a question that clause 5 as amended stands part of the bill. Those in favor say aye, and to the contrary nay. The ayes have it.
Thank you. Chair, clause 6 is about penalty for other acts connected to narcotic drugs and psychotropic substances. Clause 6, the committee proposes that be amended by A, substituting for subclause 1 the following. 1, subject to this act, a person who A, smokes, inhales, sniffs, chews, or otherwise uses any narcotic drug or psychotropic substances. B, without lawful and reasonable excuse, is found in any house, room, or place where persons resort to for purposes of smoking, inhaling, sniffing, chewing, or in any way using a narcotic drug or psychotropic substance. C, being the owner, occupier, or concerned in the management of any premises, permits the premises to be used for 1, the preparation of narcotic drug or psychotropic substance for smoking or sale, or the smoking, inhaling, sniffing, chewing, or otherwise using any narcotic drug or psychotropic substance, or 2, the manufacture, production, sale, or distribution of any narcotic drug or psychotropic substance in contravention of this act, or D, has in his or her possession any pipe, tool, or other utensil for use in smoking, inhaling, sniffing, or administering in any other manner of using a narcotic drug or psychotropic substance, or any utensil used for preparation of any other narcotic drug or psychotropic substance for smoking, commits an offense and is liable on conviction to a fine not exceeding 50,000 currency points or imprisonment for a period not exceeding 10 years or both. Justification, Right Honorable Chair, is in compliance with Section 37 of the Interpretation Act to prescribe the maximum penalties that may be suffered by a person convicted for contravening the provisions of Clause 6 of the bill, and 2, to expand the provision to include all other narcotic drugs or psychotropic substances. I beg to move.
Thank you. Dr. Yume.
Thank you very much, Chair. The Committee on Health agrees with the proposals. However, it proposes the following amendments. Clause 6 is amended in subclause 1 by A, substituting for paragraph D the following. Has in his or her possession any pipe, tool, or any other utensil for use in smoking, inhaling, sniffing, or administering, or in any other manner of using a narcotic drug or psychotropic substance, or any other utensil used for the preparation of a narcotic drug or psychotropic substance. B, inserting immediately after paragraph C the following. Diverts a precursor for a narcotic drug or psychotropic substance under his or her possession for illicit manufacture or production of narcotic drug or psychotropic substance. The justification, Mr. Chairman, A, the deletion of the words for smoking appearing at the end of paragraph D is to generally restrict the possession of utensils used for the preparation of a narcotic drug or psychotropic substance without the authorization, rather than limit the restriction to when the utensil is used for smoking. B, the new insertion on precursor. In the interpretation section, we had introduced the word precursor. I had mentioned it's a building block for these narcotics. So B, the new insertion on precursor is to provide for control measures that will prevent diversion of precursors for narcotic drugs or psychotropic substances, as well as provide for control measures for the unchecked illicit production and manufacture of synthetic narcotics and psychotropic substances in laboratories. C, the insertion of precursor does not restrict access or possession of precursors by penalizes their diversion for illicit manufacture of narcotic and psychotropic substance. Thank you very much.
Where the Committee on Health, under the interpretation clause, had introduced some new words. One of them is precursor. And we have some clauses for which process we shall be attempting to look at how best we can control the precursor. So I'm trying to see how many there are, but I don't think there are very many. So when we reach on those clauses, we are going to stand over them until we agree to the interpretation of the word precursor. Otherwise, it would be, you might find we disagree with the interpretation, and then every clause would have passed. In that regard, would be void ab initio. Okay? Yeah. So, yes.
Mr. Chairman, I wanted the chair of the committee, not the one of health. You see, the moment you have introduced a figure, maybe if you remember.
Honorable Nanda, please, let us first get, I want more. Okay? I don't want you to submit on a clause, then we say let's stand over it.
No, when one clause, you have said 50,000 garage point, and you have put imprisonment not exceeding 20 years. In another clause, you are putting 50,000 garage point, not exceeding 10 years. Would it be procedural right to have different, the amount is right, the same, but when it comes to imprisonment, you are changing. He will be procedural right to move in that direction, Mr. Chair.
I will make my ruling once we reach on that clause. I already guided that we stand over it.
Clause 7.
Chair. Clause 7 concerns the provisions relating to certain prescriptions. Clause 7, the committee proposes that be amended. A, by inserting immediately after subclause 1 the following. A pharmacist shall not sell or supply a narcotic drug or psychotropic substance to any person except where the narcotic drug or psychotropic substances has been prescribed by a medical practitioner or dentist. B, in subclause 2B, by deleting the word to any animal. C, by substituting for subclause 3 the following. A person who contravenes this section commits an offense and is liable on conviction to a fine not exceeding 50,000 currency points or to imprisonment not exceeding 10 years or both. The justification for this, Right Honorable Chair and dear colleagues, is to expand the provision to include pharmacists since they sell and supply narcotic drug or psychotropic substances under prescription. 2, in compliance with Section 37 of the Interpretation Act, prescribe the maximum penalties that may be suffered by a person convicted for contravening provisions of the bill. I beg to submit.
Thank you. Dr. Yume and your team, and I want you to be clear, where you agree with the proposal of the committee, the proposed amendment, you tell us so that we know you're adding. Where you disagree, you also tell us so that we subject both proposals to debate.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. In Clause 7, the proposals by the Committee on Health, we proposed that in addition to subclause A, at the end we add clinical officer or a nurse with a certificate in specialized palliative care. Therefore, it would read, a pharmacist shall not sell or supply a narcotic drug or psychotropic substance to any person except where the narcotic drug or psychotropic substance has been prescribed by a medical practitioner, a dentist, clinical officer, or a nurse with a certificate in specialist palliative care. The committee also proposed a new insertion. A clinical officer or a nurse with a certificate in specialist palliative care shall not prescribe or supply to any person a narcotic drug or psychotropic substance, except where the narcotic drug or psychotropic substance is required for palliative care. The committee also proposed another insertion that any other authorized person by the minister by statutory instrument to prescribe or supply a narcotic drug or psychotropic substance shall not A, prescribe or supply to any person a narcotic drug or psychotropic substance, or B, sign any prescription or order for the supply of a narcotic drug or psychotropic substance to any person, except where the narcotic drug or psychotropic substance is required or the medical treatment of that person, for the medical treatment of that person. The justification is to cater for the different categories of persons who can prescribe under the National Drug Policy and Authority Act.
Thank you. Yes, I will allow colleagues, don't mind. I just want to first get the view of the chair.
The views from the chairperson of Committee on Health are improvements. I have absolutely no qualms about it. I support them.
Thank you. Minister for Internal Affairs?
I do concur as well. Right.
Thank you. So, Honorable Tinka Simire, then Honorable Enos. I'm going to allow you, Honorable colleague.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I have listened to the contributions by both chairpersons. I entirely agree with them. I would only want where they place somebody seeking these drugs from the pharmacist for purposes of doing research. Who gives him, because it is not provided for. And if we make such a law that purely does not allow any other person, particularly the researchers, not access these drugs, is inhibitive in terms of innovation, in terms of creativity and fostering research. I want to thank you. That's
Thank
the
you.
clarification I want.
Yes. Anyone from government side? Where are we providing for research, access by researchers, which is a very important.
Honorable Chair, can you just give us a minute to come back to you on it?
Okay, let's be picking other feeders as we get to that.
I had a question from the chair on health committee. Whether precursors and essential chemicals can be accessed by pharmacists. If yes, don't you think it's important we also add them in this clause that once they sell them, then there's a penalty that comes with that?
Yeah, but that's what he added in. He allowed in.
Mr. Chairman, you had guided we stand over precursors for us to be able to appreciate it in the interpretation. But with your guidance, Mr. Chairman, I can still...
For this clarification, I think it's okay. No, please, let's allow a member to first finish. I'm going to give you a chance, Honorable colleague. Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, in Clause 6, we had made a provision where we inserted precursors, and it reads as follows. Divert a precursor of a narcotic drug or psychotropic substance under his or her possession for illicit manufacture or production of a narcotic drug or psychotropic substance. Mr. Chairman and colleagues, the bill does not seek to criminalize access or possession of precursors. What it seeks to criminalize is diversion. For example, if you import benzene for laboratories in schools, then you divert it to make narcotics. That's where the bill applies. I mean, what we are proposing should apply. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, colleagues, in one of the interactions yesterday, this issue was seriously raised by the team from the National Government and Lit Collab. And of course, even some of us were concerned because like us from rural areas, if our schools cannot access, what will happen? So, but it was clearly put under this bill. They will access. The problem is if you divert. Because someone can say, but I accessed illegally. If you don't provide for diversion. Okay? So the issue is just on diversion. But in terms of access, they will be okay as they've been accessing. Dr. Boka then Nandara.
Yeah, thank you, Chair.
I come here.
On the use of psychotropic substances and narcotics for research purposes. Before any research is approved, the individual or institution doing research has to seek for clearance from institutional review boards. And therefore, for that matter, we may have to have an inclusion of institutional review boards to cater for the use of narcotics and psychotropic substances for research purposes. I thank you.
Attorney General, you had got...
Honorable Chair, in this bill, everywhere you find for medical purpose, it means the use of a narcotic drug or psychotropic substance for treatment or research that is provided by a medical practitioner, dentist, pharmacist, veterinarian, while acting in the usual course of his professional practice and in accordance with the standards of care generally recognized and accepted within the respective profession. So every time you find the word for medical purposes, it also includes research. So if a person is found with psychotropic substances and it is said that he holds them for medical purposes, it also includes research. And the aspect you raise is also addressed there because there are standards, different standards in different places. Research in university, in medical areas, research is different. So we require you to hold it to those standards. So I think that's where we address it, Right Honorable Chair.
Thank you. Still on the... Honorable Nanda, is yours different? Because I wanted to handle the issue of research and we finish it. Yeah.
No.
He's saying wherever there is the concept medical, it implies research. Medical purposes may include, because I was looking at a sociologist doing research on this particular, so would that cater, if that caters for a sociologist who is interested? Yes, because he's looking at the impact.
So he wants to test.
Yes. So I want to be sure if it is included, I will have no problem. Thank you.
Okay, Attorney General.
Thank you very much, honorable colleague. I think the definition says having a narcotic drug or psychotropic substance for treatment, that's one, or research. It's not only for medical research. That is why we put up the issue of standards within the respective profession. So different professions have different standards for which they use for their research.
Thank you. So, Honorable Mshemeza, you can access for social research purpose.
That was my major concern because we amended that law in 2023. The Law Revision, Miscellaneous Amendments Act 2023. And I believe, I hope the Attorney General has had occasion to look at the proposed fines and imprisonment terms to comply with that particular law.
Attorney General?
First of all, Right Honorable Chair, the law revision law that is variously cited here was trying to bring the old, very old provisions in old laws into some form of semblance up till 2017. I would not want to stand here and say that there is a law in this country which fetters the power of Parliament under Article 79 to prescribe a penalty. So it is not about equivalence, it is about what Parliament prescribes at that time. Secondly, Right Honorable Chair, the penalty on fines and monies is deterrence on the business side. The penalty on incarceration is penal. So when you look at the offenses, some offenses which are for trafficking, they carry a higher penalty of imprisonment. Whereas the offense of killing yourself by smoking these substances may carry a lesser penalty. So, Right Honorable Chair and members, I think unless Parliament decides that it would like to change the particular penalty prescribed in any particular provision, there is no law in this country which requires one currency point to be equal to 1 day in prison or anything else like that. I beg to submit.
Thank you. Honorable Chair.
Should not be read in the proposed law.
If we delete the word animal, would it be doing justice to this bill as far as research is concerned? Thank you.
Thank you. On the same, Jonathan.
Right Honorable Speaker and Honorable Members, the Narcotic Drugs and Psychotropic Substances Control Bill number 14 of 23, second reading. In keeping with the Rule 131 of the Rules of Procedure of this Parliament, I beg to move that the bill titled the Narcotic Drugs and Psychotropic Substances Control Bill number 14 of 2023 be read for the second time. I beg to move, Right Honorable Speaker.
The motion seconded. Yes, Honorable Sirwani Ceremony, all UPDF members, Honorable Macho, Honorable Mwijuche, Chief Whip Attorney General, Honorable Itungo Songa, Chair Hurst, and many members of the House. Thank you. You go through the principles and sometimes objectives.
Right Honorable Speaker, I would briefly want to speak to the motion as follows. This bill was read for the first time on 23rd May 2023 and referred to the Committee on Defense and Internal Affairs for scrutiny under Rule 129.1 of the Rules of Procedure. The bill is a repository of the latest bolstered efforts against the illicit supply and use of narcotic drugs and psychotropic substances in the wake of the annulment of by the Constitutional Court in 2017 of the previous law, which left a vacuum that now government seeks to fill in order to align to international best practices and to enhance enforcement and prevention measures, as well as the care and management of persons with disorders related to these substances. The risks posed by narcotic drugs and substances, trafficking and use, are far-reaching, and if untamed in time, adversely affect the country economically, socially, politically, and even in terms of security. This bill, therefore, seeks to domesticate international enforcement best practices and also, one, provide deterrent measures against local drug abuse, B, establish mechanisms for the rehabilitation of drug addicts, C, put in place measures to save Uganda from being a transit route and consumer of drugs, D, facilitate cooperation with the international community in the fight against narcotic drugs and psychotropic substances trafficking, and E, establish mechanisms for generating resources for law enforcement agencies. I beg to submit, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. Chairperson, the committee.
Right, Honorable Speaker. I'm here to present a report of the Committee on Defense and Internal Affairs on the Narcotic Drugs and Psychotropic Substances Control Bill 2023. Right, Honorable Speaker.